Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you would have asked me when I first got elected to Congress, would I ever expect to be in a position months after presidential election about whether or not the integrity of that election was at stake, I would have said, of course not. Our democracy's strength is that any adult has an equal say in it through their vote, that the wealthiest or the poorest, the youngest or the oldest adult, regardless of their gender, race, religion, or sexual orientation, we all have an equal say in our democracy via our vote, which is why the vote is so important. It's the great equalizer. And it gives us confidence in our government that whoever the people select to be president should be the voice of the majority. But the concern I'm speaking about today is the concern that somehow the election this past November might have been interfered with by another government. Now, I know we've all heard about the intelligence community's classified report regarding Russian hacking and interference in our elections. I've read it, so have many of my colleagues, and allegedly President Trump has read the document as well. My concern is that we seem to have different interpretations of a document that is very clear about unprecedented outside interference. For those of us who've read it, shock that another country would be so cavalier in their approach to interfere with an election, to manipulate the truth, to go farther than we've ever seen in trying to get the outcome they wanted and ultimately got. There's no secret that President Trump has an unnerving affection for Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump has called Putin very smart. He claimed Putin was a better leader than Barack Obama. And Trump even defended Putin in a recent interview with a Fox News talk show host. And the connections to Russia and his cabinet are equally unnerving. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson had numerous business dealings with Russia and was even recognized by Putin with the Order of Friendship in 2013. But it doesn't stop just there. Just last week, U.S. investigators confirmed that parts of the 35-page intelligence dossier compiled by a former British spy were accurate. The dossier contained still unconfirmed details of an all-too-cozy relationship between Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Trump cabinet. And just yesterday, President Trump's own national security advisor, Michael Flynn, resigned after being busted for having potentially illegal conversations with the Russian government regarding lifting sanctions on the country prior to President Trump taking office, conversations he had previously misled to the FBI and the vice president. Who else knew about Flynn, and when did they know about it? Now, I don't bring this up as an effort to get back into a Cold War with Russia, as some seem to condone. I'm disgusted by the Russian government's scapegoating of the LGBT community and their authoritarian approach to civic affairs. But I think getting back into a Cold War would be a terrible idea. And there are some areas around the globe where we could welcome cooperation to solve humanitarian crises. My concern lies in that the Russian government did something, hacking and interfering in our elections with the intent of electing their choice for president, Donald Trump, and that must be addressed through sanctions and safeguards to make sure it never happens again. And if anyone in the executive branch is suggesting lifting any sanctions after what just happened, there needs to be a public dialogue about why. Because if they read the same report that I did, there is no way that would be the appropriate response. But given President Trump's unwillingness to accept the reality of the Russian interference in our election, given the closeness of several leading members of President's cabinet to Russia, and given the recent resignation of our national security advisor over his dealings with Russia, I feel it is imperative that the American people get all the facts. Should we be lifting sanctions against a country our intelligence community tells us intentionally and in multiple ways tried to interfere with our elections and ultimately get the person they wanted elected? Or should we be doing even more to guarantee the sovereignty of our country and the integrity of our elections in every possible way? Currently, the House and Senate Intelligence Committees are investigating Russian interference with our elections, and I applaud them for taking the issue so seriously. Personally, I would love to see an outside, nonpartisan, independent review as well. However, we need to take this right to the people. The classified report about election interference by the Russians could, in my opinion, with appropriate protections, be declassified so that the American people could see it for themselves. Mr. President, I request you to ask for that report to be fully declassified. If your administration's assertions are correct, let the American people see it. Let the truth come out. But my guess is when they see the totality of the report, there will be a lot of explaining for this administration to do, both about our response to Russia and how we protect our elections in the future. It's really that simple. Let the people decide. Declassify the report. I yield back.